Today I was sitting in the garden reading a nice little book and enjoyed it a lot. It's a short book, only about 99 pages, written 1885. One of the avant-garde books about entomophagy in Europe, or it's better to say about the entomophobia in Europe at that time. It's written by the famous Vincent M. Holt. Was published first 1885, then mostly forgotten through the years. And in 1967, during the hippie times, young people found this book again very interesting because it was something against the norms. It was some kind of a book about the class fight in quite another dimension. I will come to this a little bit later. Then reprinted 67, 69, 73, 78, but still pretty rare to find also in good bookstores. Probably you have luck to find this book, and if you have, so please take it and read it. It's not scientific book, not at all. It's kind of an essay about the entomophobia in England in the Victorian times, and it's really funny to read. Also, it has some of this dark English humor, sarcastic, sometimes a little bit cynicism also in it, but it's very straight to the theme. Why not eat insects? If we look at the cover, what we see, not only insects. Now, because Mr. Holt is not a stubborn guy, he is quite open to speak about insects, also including snails, slugs, snails. Also, kind of this one, this is not an insect, because also this one, centipedes are not insect. But let's not be pingelig, we would say in German, because this is really a book that is much more wide open. It's much more about a critic of the class, of this upper class, this English bourgeoise class that seems to be disgusted with only thinking about eating insect. But they eat things that they don't even know what it is, but eat it because it's fashionable and it's chic and it is written in Francais. And this is one of the main critics also of Mr. Holt. Very funny to read sometimes. I was remembered. I was reminding some scenes from Monty Python. I will show you later where. It's mostly also about French, everything that is French, that has to do with the king. Everybody wants to be a king himself, and you don't even understand what you're eating then, but it sounds good, and that's it. So also he's saying most of the people have absolutely no understanding what they eat because they have no taste at all. And because they have no taste at all, they must eat what is fashionable, and that's one of the things he's telling us in this book. Very intensely and funny also. The one thing about edible insects for Mr. Holt is very clear. If we eat insects, then they should be vegetarian. They shouldn't be meat eaters, or they shouldn't be, he says, unclean, because he also says that most of the things we eat in kind of flesh from animals is only flesh from animals that are vegetarians, that not are meat eaters themselves. And as an example, he's talking about dogs and cats and whatever. And the same should be for Mr. Holt also with insects. We should not eat flies because they sit on the dog shit, or we should not eat the churchyard beetles because they eat the cadavers of our ancestors in the churchyard. They are unclean feeding insects, and he is very sure that we shouldn't eat this kind of insect. Although later he explains we should eat Tenebrio molitor and the darkling beetles, but most of the darkling beetles are also cadaver eaters. And then he said, did you ever think about what you're eating and find fashionable, like lobsters, this animal that eat dead fish, or pigs that are even forbidden in the Bible. And he said, yes, but also it's written in the Bible from John the Baptist that he, when he was in the desert, he was eating only locusts and honey. So, of course, it should be a little bit the green desert, because if there's so much honey, there must be some flowers around also. But this is another problem. Yeah, and then he says, for example, if we have a cheese and there's a cheese fly in it, and we eat the cheese with the cheese fly, it's everything cheese, because also the fly maggot is made from cheese. Kind of a strange argument, but he goes on with that. If we have a cabbage and it's a grub inside the cabbage, why shouldn't we eat the cabbage with the grub and cook it together? Because the grub in the cabbage consists only of cabbage. So that sounds a little bit philosophical trick for him. Again, this disgust of the upper class about only thinking of eating insects, because they think this is something for the poor, uncivilized races, for Negroes and other uncivilized men that have not reached the class of the English bourgeoisie at that time. So this is also a kind of a book about the fight between the poor class, workman class, against this selfish bourgeois, Victorian people. One thing is interesting, he asks in one part of the book, why did insects disappear from the menus in Europe and not in Asia and Africa and so on? And one of the things he says, yes, because insects, they disappeared as medicine out of the pharmacies in Europe at the time when the Christians came. And he has a lot of very nice examples about how insects in the older times, also in Europe, in the Roman times, were used as a medicine. Something that we only know now from Asia, especially from China. Yeah, and then there's another very interesting thing. He describes a health conference in London with a big tom-tom around it, and everybody that was a little bit bourgeois was invited to go there, and they were presented a very nice Chinese menu written in French. So of course nobody knew what they were eating, but they enjoyed it so much. Why? Because it was written in French, and everything that is French is fashionable and chic, and is not done for the poor guys in the street, and not made for the uncivilized Negroes and races in the world. That's kind of a racist background also of entomophobia. That is a very interesting thinking. Yeah. Once it reminded me, a scene from Monty Python was this here. First he said, firstly, philosophy bids us neglect no wholesome source of food. Secondly, what a pleasant change from the labourer's unvarying meal of bread, lard and bacon, or bread and lard without bacon, or bread without lard or bacon would be a good dish of fried cockchafers or grasshoppers. Yes, and this is the scene that I was reminded of.
Morning. Morning. What you got then? Well, there's egg and bacon, egg, sausage and bacon, egg and spam, egg, bacon and spam, egg, bacon, sausage and spam, spam, bacon, sausage and spam, spam, egg, spam, bacon and spam, spam, egg and spam, spam, baked beans, spam and spam. Oh, lobster thermidor, crevettes with Mornay sauce, garnished with truffle pate brandy and a fried egg on top and spam. Have you got anything without spam in it? Well, spam, egg, sausage and spam. There's not got much spam in it. I don't want any spam.
Why can't you have egg, bacon, spam and sausage?
That's got spam in it.
Not as much as spam, egg, sausage and spam.
Look, could I have egg, bacon, spam and sausage without the spam? Yeah.
Yeah, so why not eat insects? Here's a really funny essay that Mr. Holt wrote in 1885, and one sentence I would like to present to you for the finish of this little description of the book. This one. We imitate the savage nations in their use of numberless drugs, spices and condiments. Why not go a step further? So, if you can, take the book, read it, enjoy it. Thanks for watching.